Do I just drag all these in?
Yeah.
All right, you guys, we're getting ready to go live on Get the U Factor.
How do you pull in the website?
So please.
I didn't pull in the GettheUFactor.
So hit mic on at 13 seconds.
Can you do it on the phone? That should pop up here in a second.
You know, it usually brought up the logo.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Get the U Factor here on One Talk Network. My name is Nicholas Fordham. I've got Mr. Mike Driggers here to my right. We also have a couple special guests coming up here shortly in the show. But first, what is it that holds you from achieving greatness? Does greatness just come to those that are struck by lightning, or have you just hit that lucky streak? What really does make people achieve everything they want out of life? These questions span across the globe as millions of people settle into their life thinking that they don't have what it takes to truly get what they want out of life. Simply put, most people just give up on their dreams and aspirations to move forward with the repetitious habits that have been cemented around their lifestyle. Is this because they don't have what it takes to achieve their goals? The answer is no. You do have what it takes to accomplish anything you truly desire, and it starts with finding your inner you. With Get the U Factor, we go step by step in educating you on the key principles to achieve everything you want out of life. By tapping into our resources and following along with our weekly broadcast, we will guide you through a journey of self-awareness and self-improvement. We will take you deep into your mind to determine what mental blocks are that are holding you back from your true potential. You do have what it takes, and we are here to help you prove it to yourself. So how's it going today, Mike?
I am fantastic and improving as usual. It's been an amazing week, and we've got some amazing guests on our show tonight, and just an amazing world we live in today. I mean, things are good. Things are really good. I just got back. I was actually in Utah, and I was doing some training out there, and it was so beautiful out there. The mountains, because it's that time of year where it's not so cold and yet not too warm, and there's still snow on some of the mountains, but you can see the mountains, and it's a beautiful, beautiful area. Of course, everything out there is, the alcohol's watered down, but but if you drink, and I don't, I had the reason why I was telling you this is I actually proposed to my fiance out there.
I saw this on Facebook. Yes. That's
yes.
Quite the rock there, Mike.
You like that? I saw what happened was there was this wall, and I've been trying to figure out how I was going to propose to her, and this wall said, it was a big chalk wall where people could write on it. It says, if I could, I wish I, and then so I said, Gabby, will you marry me? And then I gave her the ring, and 3 Coronas later she said yes. No, just kidding. She said yes right away, but she was really ecstatic, and it was kind of cool, and we took pictures, so it was a big deal, and she's excited.
Well, congratulations to you and Gabby. You guys are an amazing couple, and I'm very excited to see the road ahead.
Yeah, I'm definitely blessed. I've been blessed and highly favored with her. That's for sure. That's for sure. So
awesome. Well, let's jump into your book. And again, Mike Driggers is the author of the book Mastering the Mindset: The Power of Affirmations. And like every show, we start out with a positive affirmation. So for those of you that are listening, those are new to the show, what we want you to do is to recite this positive affirmation to yourself 3 times a day in front of the mirror. And this is the positive affirmation for the week. Remember, you're going to recite it to yourself either in the rear view mirror with your car parked, in the bathroom, when you're getting ready in the mornings, throughout the day. But be sure to look into your own eyes as you're reciting this positive affirmation. So the positive affirmation for the week is, I view any hardships as a stepping stone to achievement. Again, I view any hardships as a stepping stone to achievement. Achievement is sweeter to me when I overcome challenges along the way. When I reap meaningful rewards, despite obstacles, I feel much more pride about my accomplishment. I view every circumstance as an opportunity to learn something. When I encounter an unintended challenge, I stop and ask myself, What can I learn from it? At these times, I realize undiscovered strengths that exist within me all along. When I become aware that what I have already experienced is the worst that could happen, I get up, dust myself off, and keep going. After all, the worst is over. I know my circumstances can only get better after a stumble. Wounds heal and new victories replace memories of mistakes. If my path is unclear, I admit to feeling overwhelmed. Then I take a moment to breathe and look at the issues for what it's really worth. Often, as I break concern into component parts, I find that it is really not such a big deal after all. Winning small battles means that I am getting closer to the ultimate victory. I acknowledge that achieving greatness is no easy task. In the same breath, I recognize that I have what it takes to keep climbing to the top, even after several slips. Today, I believe that I can only truly achieve in a meaningful way if I face trials on the road to success. Because of my challenges, I have true appreciation for what I achieve. I know that success rarely comes easy, and I approach that reality head on with gratitude for every experience.
So today, your self-reflection questions are: first, have I had any situations lately that felt like they knocked the wind out of me, then turned out not to be so bad? Number two, do I make myself an example of success through my challenges? Then number three, how do my loved ones and I provide each other with support in trying times? And the quote today for you to live by and think about is: you must not abandon ship in a storm, because you cannot control the winds, by St. Thomas More. So, today's show, we're going to talk about are limited beliefs holding you back, and we're going to get into a little bit of details about, what are some of the limiting beliefs, what are things that are holding you back. And limiting beliefs have more than just a negative impact on your life than any other factor. After all, most of us are pretty rational people. We're not going to spend a lot of time on something that we believe is doomed or failure. Why would you? Every time you try to lose weight, or if you generally believe that everyone in your family was destined to be overweight, then why are you going to focus your energies there? So we carry on around these limited beliefs in our lives. We carry them wherever we go, and they come from a variety of sources, as well as from our own interpretation of the world around us. Humans can't help but learn, but sometimes we learn things that are inaccurate. Right? Have you ever had any type of situation in life that you had a limiting belief, like maybe I didn't look good, or I don't look good, or people think I'm annoying, and because somebody had programmed your mind that way?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a story that I think of that ties in with today's affirmation and the story behind the affirmation, and it goes with the limiting belief of not being able to get out. Right? And so the story is about this donkey, this jackass, right? He's walking through this town, and he falls into this hole, right? Mm-hmm. And so he's stuck down in the bottom of this hole, and there's no way for him to climb out of this hole. And so all the town city and all the townsmen, they come down to get the donkey out of the hole. And they try to throw a rope down there with the noose on it. They try to pull him out of there, and it starts to strangle him. And so they say, wow, well, how are we going to get this donkey out of the hole? They decide, you know what, forget it. Let's just bury him. Right? So they start getting shovels of dirt, and they pour it in on this donkey. What does he do? Every shovel full of dirt, he shakes his shoulder off and steps up. Every single one. And as they continue to fill the hole, guess what? He's stepping back up on that dirt that's thrown onto his shoulders. And very soon, he walks right away. Walks right up out of that hole. And the thing to think about with that is your limited beliefs, thinking that you're stuck in a situation in your life where there's no way to get out of it. And looking at this right here, shaking your shoulders off and stepping up, that allows you to step away from those limiting beliefs that are limiting you from getting out of a current situation that you're at in life.
Yeah, and fortunately, you can eliminate these beliefs and replace them with beliefs that empower you. Mm-hmm. And I can't tell you how many stories I've heard about people from just, somebody thought that they were a certain type, that people thought about them in a certain way when it wasn't true. But they had this in their mind, and because they had this there, then it eliminated part of their success or held them back from doing things. One of the things is, in an extreme case, there was a story about a gentleman that worked at a restaurant, a cook, and he was putting stuff away in the freezer, and the door was open, and during the time he was putting the stuff away, the door ended up shutting on him. And he ended up passing, God bless his soul, because he was caught in this freezer. But here's the part where the limiting belief came in. The door was unlocked the whole time. When they found him, the door was unlocked. He had the belief that he couldn't open that door, so he didn't even try, and he gave up, and it took his life. So the thing is if you did try or step out, you imagine replacing that limited belief with one that makes your life easier and enables you to be more successful. How would you feel if you had this limiting belief that broke that barrier? And that's what this show today is really about, is breaking through those barriers and identifying them. And as we get into the show, we're going to be talking to two gentlemen that are taking that to a whole nother level. I'm talking, we're going out to space today. You ready to go to space? We're going to go to the moon. There is some really cool stuff. I can't wait to hear the story about this. You've been telling me about it. The lunar cube. The lunar cubes. When you first told me, I thought it was a new Rubik's Cube thing that I'm going to have to try to figure out. But as you were describing it to me, I was like, wow, this is pretty powerful. This is cool. This is taking cloud to a whole nother level. That big buzzword out there. So we're excited to bring these folks on and talk about that. But a limited belief is one that causes life to be less than completely satisfying, right? And where are these limiting beliefs at? How can you identify, how limiting beliefs affect your life, right? We've talked a little bit about that. One of the main ways that limiting beliefs have a significant negative impact on our lives is that that they're a short circuit or prevent us from that process of following through to have success, whether at the job or where in our marriage or our health or in our financial, that there's a limiting belief that people believe that they don't deserve to be rich, or have money, right? And
it holds them back.
Yeah, and it holds them back. And so the first thing is you want to, there's four things. One is decide clearly what you want. It's tough to accomplish something meaningful if you don't identify it at first, right? The second thing is do something to make it happen. It takes action to attain any goal, right? Some people claim that you can practically wish a portion to your driveway without lifting a finger, but the real truth is that some action is required. You'll have to do something to accomplish anything meaningful. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm a big thinker in manifestation. I'm a big believer in manifesting your reality, but there's more to it than just thinking what's going to happen and how it's going to happen in life. You've got to go out there and take action, massive action, towards making that happen in life. Yes, you want to set that goal. Yes, you want to set that sight, but you've got to go out there and take action.
Right. The next is to adjust your approach as you gain new expertise. Right. You might not know at first how to realize the perfect path. It's not working. Doing something else, or you want to adjust your path. We talk about this. I've talked about it, and we're going to have some space experts here. That when the rocket's going to the moon, 99% of the time it's off track. It constantly has to adjust, and you're going to have situations in your life where you're going to have to constantly be adjusting and overcoming those barriers. The fourth thing is keep going until you do achieve your success. Break through that barrier. Usually takes about 90 days to off-cast bad habits and bring in new ones. And so if you're breaking through these limited beliefs by following these kind of structures, and we'll get into some steps to help you, but just start taking control, identify what that limiting belief is, and start programming the mind. Listen to our show and get into changing that. What can I do to change that limiting belief? Because if you have a limiting belief, you may stumble, along the way, but again, adjust, relax, figure out where the problem, how to go around it, And here's what I know. Once I've made the decision to go forward, things will start falling in place for me to achieve that. It just happens. For some reason, you know, and you're going to look, the law of nature is going to put obstacles in your way. But you're going to also figure out ways to get around it. And I know that we've got two experts that are have probably came across that in their lives when they're putting something together that's never been done before. They have to really think out of the box, and these law of nature just puts these obstacles, but yet they've figured ways around some of this stuff, and so we're excited to have them. You want to go ahead and just bring them onto the show and introduce them and kind of tell them the background, since you know a little bit more about them?
Absolutely. And you know, for those of you that know me, that are listeners to the show, you guys know that I'm a thinker. I'm somebody that does think outside the box, and I can think back at the last Lunar Cubes event. It was over by Stanford University here in California, and I was down there with these two gentlemen and helping to put together this workshop and this event. And while I was there at the event, I met some brilliant scientists from NASA and Yeti and places, you know, all throughout the space world as far as the people that are involved in space exploration. And I could tell you, I felt like the idiot in the room, the guy that barely knew anything. Definitely some brilliant individuals. The very first one that I met, Abraham Vassant. Abraham, I met him at a hacker lab here in Sacramento. I was there at the hacker lab, and he looked like he was wandering around searching for someone or something. And so I struck up a conversation with him and found out he was a mechatronic engineer. Being that he's
a mecha who?
So a mechatronic engineer is a combination of mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and computer science. And it's actually, it was a major that I had when I was in college, and so immediately I was intrigued. So I started to have a conversation with Abraham and found out a little bit about lunar cubes. Shortly afterwards, Abraham introduced me to Russell Cox, and I found out the background of Russell, and being that, you know, he's indulged fully into the world of entrepreneurialism, but he's taken this thought and this vision and this idea and concept of space exploration and refining the way people conduct space exploration, as well as creating a community of individuals that, you know, can now take their passion of going after space exploration and giving them a sounding board, giving them a place where they can actually be a part of the space exploration, create communities, create teams, and go out and get it done. So, gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Just glad to have you guys. Tell us a little bit about what Lunar Cubes is, and really what this. I mean, it's pretty amazing just in the, you know, having the conversation about where you came from. But why don't you talk about what that is?
Yeah, sure. This is the perfect show for this, because basically I'm starting a company on two limiting beliefs that were shattered recently. One, we more or less all know, and that was for 40 years people thought the moon was a very boring, dry, dead place, and there was no particular reason to go there. The President of the United States, we've been there, done that. Shortly before he said that, the scientists had proved him wrong. He just didn't realize it. In 2009, they sent a new spacecraft to the moon called Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, and it changed everything we thought about the moon. The biggest single thing that it did is it proved that the poles of the moon are extraordinarily cold. They're actually the coldest place in the solar system, colder than Pluto.
Wow.
They measured it at 20 degrees of absolute zero. And what that means that's really interesting is it turns out that that means there's water ice on the moon. And water is exciting because if you remember, the space shuttle took liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen, burned them together to make water and rocket fuel. You can do the opposite on the moon. You go to the moon, you find the water, you purify it, you break it apart into oxygen and hydrogen, and now you have rocket fuel that's on the moon, which is more than 90% of the way to Mars or anywhere else you want to go. So you now have a rich resource on the moon after 40 years of everybody saying the moon is completely uninteresting and unvaluable.
So, go ahead. I guess I've made.
Wow, you guys, that's an exciting start. We actually got to go to a break right now here at Get the U-Factor on One Talk Network. But when we get back, we're going to hear some very exciting things about space exploration and getting your rocket fuel from the moon.
make sure you let me know too, because I didn't even know. Like, let me know we have 2 minutes, 1 minute,
And
something.
maybe in the future
Yeah.
do like a big
Yeah.
timeout
Yeah.
up above or something like that.
That way I know.
Okay.
That gives us 60 seconds to mentally prep for it.
Okay, sorry about that.
Oh,
That's
you
okay.
did, you did
That's
perfect,
all right.
man.
Don't worry
You did
about it.
perfect.
So that's cool. I was reading on USA Today. They discovered a shiny object, like there was something shiny on the moon, like a crystal or something, and that could be like the frozen water or something like that, right? I mean, that's kind of along the lines. But there was a whole article about it. You know, is it alien? Is it life on the moon? But
Maybe it's a shiny disco ball.
The little drone had taken pictures, and in the distance there was like this beacon of light that was caught, and it could be a reflection, but obviously something has. According to my beliefs in bringing it up, was that the moon was like just dust and dark, you know.
Yep.
So it's possible it does have crystallization, right, from water. So that's pretty cool. Now you can create your own fuel. I also read they're using that same concept of water for the jets and ships now to create fuel out of seawater. I was reading about that. That's pretty cool stuff. It's way over my head, but you know.
That's very cool.
Hey, you give me an object, I can market it, right?
Absolutely.
That's what I'm good at, marketing.
Yeah, good.
You ask me how it's built, good luck. I'll give you the hillbilly knees way of how it was built. Duct tape, you know, and a clothes hanger.
Duct tape works for everything.
Yes, sir.
So during this break, what commercials going on?
Yeah, commercials are going on right now, and then, but we're still broadcasting live via video.
Yep. Say
So
hi.
anything that is
It's,
super
can't
secret.
really be held against us.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Big Brother's tapped in. They knew
Yep.
you guys were coming, so you know. That's good. Maybe they can buy one of our CDs.
Yeah.
Right, why not? Need to change the White House.
It's on the last commercial right now that's gonna do the bumper.
Okay.
About 40 seconds.
Give it back to me in the last game.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to go back. I want to ask them the question about what? Are you kidding? We're going to make fuel from the moon? That's cool, right? Tell me how to share with that, you know, or whatever.
I'm the communication guy.
You're the communication, so I need
Yeah,
that
because
question.
mix water with alcohol.
You know, it's a bad mixture.
We'll get you there.
13 seconds.
Okay.
Five, four, three.
Welcome back to Get the You Factor, where we help you to find how to get your inner you factor to go out and get whatever you want in life. Today we're talking about limiting beliefs. We've got two special guests, Russell Cox and Abraham Vassant from Lunar Cubes, Lunar Initiatives, Lunar Workshops, and Lunar Six. And we just went to break talking a little bit about gathering space fuel from the moon. Now, for those of you that are chemistry buffs, if you remember, anything in water is H2O, right? 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen. And so the concept is they've studied and found proven fact that there's water on the moon. Now, with this water on the moon, Russell's been telling us a little bit about how they're able to take that water and turn it into space fuel and then possibly create a space gas station. Imagine that, a 7-Eleven up there in space. I want the subway next door if that's all right.
Yeah. Let me claim some land right now on that. So, but that's incredible. Could you imagine?
It's incredible.
I'm going to take a pit stop. We're going to stop at the moon before we go to Mars.
Right.
Right?
So Russell, tell us a little bit more about this.
So thanks. Yeah, there's, the water on the moon is one of many interesting things that was discovered. The limiting belief was that the moon was just rocks, but it turns out there's water ice and there's other kinds of ice. So the lunar poles are more like a comet than anything else, which again, comets are far away, really hard to get to, billions of dollars to go study one. The moon's right in our backyard. And so suddenly, right in our backyard, it's scientifically interesting, it's economically interesting, it's a wonderful challenge for people to try and get back to the moon and explore this terrain. The other limiting belief that was shattered recently that led to the formation of our company and the Lunar Cubes concept is about 10 years ago, again at Stanford, two professors said, can we build a satellite that's about the size of a football, and actually a little smaller, 10 centimeters square, which is about the box that you put a baseball in. Can you build a satellite that big? And everybody told them they were insane, and no, it couldn't be done. Why are you wasting your time doing this? 10 years later, there are over 200 CubeSat projects going to low Earth orbit, and they're now becoming very valuable scientific instruments and observational instruments. And they have that nice blend of they're beginning to do useful things, these little bitty CubeSats, but they're also, if you choose to do something relatively simple like fly an iPhone in orbit, high schools can build it. And so there are CubeSats being built by small countries. Chile has a CubeSat program. Lots of small countries are working on CubeSats. High schools and colleges can build these things. NASA has a program to fly, and if your college builds one, they'll consider putting it on one of their rockets, and they've built several, and they now select a new crop every year of CubeSats out of universities to fly.
So these are like mini satellites that communicate back to the Earth. What is it communicating, or what are they used for?
The initial ones were like miniature Sputniks. What they did was they just went beep, but you could pick them up on any ham radio. Could now pick up a CubeSat as it goes over. So
No kidding.
The early ones were they would make a quick beep, or they would take a picture of the Earth and so you get this blurry blue splotch and said that's the Earth, which is pretty cool. But now the radio speeds are getting faster. The computers you can fit inside them are getting bigger, and they're now starting to do some real science. So, Aaron, why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the challenges of communicating with tiny CubeSats in Earth orbit?
Yeah, because that's your background, right? Is communication. So share with us.
All right, thank you for that. Generally, we see things whizzing by our sky, like at altitudes comparable to International Space Station. Whether we see it or not, they come in one end of the horizon, and they kind of travel whiz by quickly and fade into the other end of the horizon. These, depending upon the inclination angle, could be anywhere between 2-3 minutes, or the longest could be about 11 minutes. So what CubeSats are other entities, something like ISS, and what we foresee is something, a few hundreds of them will be there. Right now there are a little over 30,000 satellites of all kinds, including the ones used for weather, communications, spy satellites, dead ones, and lots of other junk too. So what we see is these kind of little CubeSats, like he said, at the most it's going to say hello besides the beep, and they're going to start doing more and more work. The complexity of a CubeSat is something comparable to a cell phone in your pocket. And with that, the kind of stuff you can do, like take pictures, do several measurements of magnetic anomalies and solar radiations and several other interesting things, which was traditionally done using millions of dollars of budget, now are going to be about 100 times cheaper. And that's why this new thinking and the new pattern, and now we are able to soon come up with this cloud that are built using lunar cubes all the way up to the moon. There will be several hundreds of them around Earth, and there will be a couple of dozen around the moon, and there will be links connecting the two. And recently optical communications have also proven to be very successful. So in all this mix, we are in an interesting phase of time. What was thought like not possible, or this can only be done at the NASA budget, we will be able to do it 1/100th of that cost.
So and that's what you were saying is about going back to like high school kids or college kids being able to create these cubes and send them up. And I'm assuming that the cubes would be able to communicate, kind of like connect the dots, that they're all different points around the Earth, so that the communication, similar to what the satellite does. So you're taking these giant satellites with technology, and you know what it reminds me of is back in the day, remember, I still have, my cell number is the same number from when I had a pager. I started with the pager, and it's followed me all the way through, and then it was the big old brick phone that had the strap and it clicked in on the cell phone, and then from there it went to the big handheld phone, and then the big palm phone, and now you're like taking pictures, videos, Snapchat. We got all these different things because of the technology has allowed us to do that. So that's what you're saying is the technology's made it possible now for us to make, in a sense, these mini satellites in a football-sized cube that goes up into space and communicate. Isn't that true?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And the technology is the same. When these guys started 10 years ago, they had like your pager.
Mhm.
Now they've got like an iPhone. The other limiting belief that has now proved to not be true is that they thought, well, communicating all the way to the moon is really hard.
Mhm.
Well, one of the things that happens when you have limiting belief is maybe you're asking the wrong person.
Ah.
So after our workshop, which was near Stanford, also near that area is NASA Ames and the SETI Institute. So the SETI Institute, the Search for Extraterrestrial Life. And I thought, well, you know, these guys are looking for radio signals from other stars. Maybe finding a radio signal circling the moon wouldn't be a hard problem for them. And we went and asked them, and they said, yeah, we just built a whole new telescope, and looking at a small radio circling the moon should be very doable. When everyone else we'd asked said, oh no, you could never do that. That's really hard. And
That's
so,
funny. Well, and you know, in society, it's always in any time something new, or you're going to do something. There's always what I call these trolls, these crab people that want to keep you from doing that because they can't think outside the box, so they want to bring you down. I mean, look at the scientists of the past, Einstein, and then the Wright brothers, and they thought outside the box. And here, and I love what you said. The limiting belief. Maybe I'm asking the wrong people. That's so powerful because there are people out there that will support that idea and going after that. So I think that's amazing.
Absolutely, and what's even more profound is the idea that you guys are pushing the limits of capabilities. You have an idea, you have a vision, you see that there's people that are out there that have the capabilities of doing it, and what you're doing is simply, you're like that diode or resistor on a motherboard. You're the connector. You're connecting this person with that person. And the idea of lunar cubes, from what I've gathered, is what you're taking is what you've just discussed, the CubeSats, which high schools can now do them. There's a lot of different people that are studying and pushing to the limits what can be done in a small cube, a little bit bigger than the size of a Rubik's Cube, and putting it in the Earth's atmosphere, in the Earth's orbit. And what you guys are proposing is taking that same concept, building a cube maybe just a little bit bigger, a cube that can withstand colder temperatures, hotter temperatures, and giving that cube the ability to get into the area between the Earth and the Moon called cislunar space. And that's incredible because from what I understand is once you get past that gravity pull of 9.8 meters per second squared, and you break past that point where the Earth is pulling you back to the ground, it really doesn't take much rocket fuel to travel around up there. Is that correct?
no, that's actually very correct. And in fact, that's actually another example of there's new science out there. There's new mathematics. We thought, you had mentioned Einstein, we thought we knew how planetary orbits worked. It turns out we don't. We know how very simple ones work. What you learn in high school or college about the elliptical orbits of the planets, that's only true if there are only two things in the system. Once you have three or four things, the actual path is much, much more complicated. And there's a mathematician called Edward Bell Bruno, who back in the 80s realized that there are these very low energy but chaotic, not normal looking orbits that you can get into if you're a little patient and you do things differently than they did them in the 60s. And so there's a whole new realm and that's another technology, even at the level of fundamental mathematics about something we thought we understood, that says getting to the moon and then getting from the moon to somewhere else is much easier than we thought it was 40 years ago, and people have insisted must still be true today. And it was they weren't looking at the problem quite right. Some crazy guy who was at JPL and nobody believed him, but eventually the Japanese had a stranded satellite and said, I think I can get your stranded satellite all the way to the moon if you like. It wasn't good for anything else, so they said, well, let's try that. And then a few years later, there was another mission like that where there were 5 satellites orbiting the Earth. They finished their Earth orbit mission, and they said, well, you have just enough fuel left that we could probably put you around the moon. So now there are 2 new satellites that again made fundamentally new discoveries about the atmosphere and electronics that were going on around the moon that were originally considered space junk because their Earth mission was done, but there's new mathematics and somebody with a vision to say, well, let's try. Another thing that's going to open up the lunar frontier is the willingness to fail, the willingness to try and explore.
Well, and that's the key word, let's try, right? A lot of people in life, even as we're talking about limited beliefs, is that, you know, you can't adjust that rocket unless it leaves the ground, right? And you have to try. You have to do the things to break through those limited beliefs. I mean, otherwise, we wouldn't grow as a society, nor will we grow as a human, right? You've got to try and break through those barriers. And it's gentlemen like you that kind of think way outside the box, which I think is really cool. Maybe we'll have a Get the U-Factor lunar cube up there. That would be kind of cool. What do you think?
That would be awesome. I hear talk of some opportunities for that, but we shall see here in the future. And the thing I like about that too is not only are you putting everything into the launch of that rocket, putting everything into the guidance and the direction of the rocket, but like you said, you've got just enough gas to be able to make it around the moon. But what happens when you get around the moon? You've got that slingshot of the gravity pull to be able to bring you all the way back to Earth. So if you don't take that step to really reach past your abilities, reach past what it is you're trying to do, you'll never make it home.
No. And you won't be slingshot back.
You guys, we got to go to a break. We'll be back here in just a few moments on Get the U Factor. We'll start exploring more into limiting beliefs with Russell Cox and Abraham Vasant on the Lunar Cubes and One Music Network, OneTalkNetwork.com.
We good?
Was that good?
Yeah.
Okay. So on the next one, we should talk about, what you guys are like, how we can help you guys. So what is it that you guys need, and bring attention to what you're doing, and if you have any event or something that's coming up, talk about it, so that we can get it out there.
Good.
And then we'll talk about the 7 steps to banishing limited belief.
Okay. And we'll rotate back and
Yeah,
forth.
we can rotate back and forth. I'll take odds, you take evens,
Okay.
or do you want odds?
I'll go even.
You go even, because I'm an oddball as it is. So this is pretty cool. Yeah, that's something. Now, what about all the debris that's up there and all that stuff? Is that a big?
It's a problem, and it could become kind of like global warming, a catastrophic problem if you don't do something about it.
Right.
But again, it turns out there are some things that you can do about it. That you could build a garbage truck that could clear out something about 80% of the garbage over about 20 years.
Really?
And so they're actually, when you actually look at a problem, you find solutions.
Sure.
And
That's good. Yeah.
And we have more garbage to add to.
Yeah. More to put up there.
Yeah.
That's cool. Now, I'm sure that those cubes are. I mean, you're not limited just to the outer. I mean, this could go so much further. Like you could put these cubes on the planet, right?
Right.
I mean.
so yeah, that's part of it is adding them to a rover or something and landing them and running them around.
Yeah.
One of the key features of them is you create this kind of Lego block construction model where this is a computer block, this is a storage block, this is a power cell, and now you can mix and match. And that's one of the real key advantages of this is using those kind of standardized components. That's what reduces the cost. That's why high school students can build them, is they don't have to build the whole thing from scratch, which NASA insists on doing even to this day.
Wow.
They spend $1 billion because they don't buy anything off the shelf.
Now, should I bring that up? The fact that people can be a part of these special interest groups?
Yeah, well, I'll bring that up, and that's when I talk about my event. I'll talk about this
Cool.
idea that it's
And this is the October 7th through 10th?
correct.
Okay. LunarCubes.com.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Got about 30 seconds.
Okay.
How much? Well, I'll ask that question. That's a good question. I'm going to ask how much it costs to get it up there. Right? Is it a joint vent? Is it, co-op?
There's good answers to that too.
Okay, good.
13 seconds. 6, 5, 4, 3.
Welcome back to Get the U Factor. My name is Nicholas Forto. I'm here with Mr. Mike Driggers, and we're talking about limiting beliefs and reaching beyond your limiting beliefs. We've got a couple special guests, Russell Cox and Abraham Vassant from Lunar Cubes, and we're talking a little bit about space exploration. And where we've gotten to is the idea of this cube that it has, let's say, an operating system in there similar to your Android phone. Maybe it's got a box around it to where it protect from the super cold or super hot temperatures. Maybe inside there's an HDMI plug or the ability to add an actuator where you can stick out an arm and let's say it's floating around the moon and it puts out a reflector and puts light from the sun and reflects it to the dark side of the moon. Is all of this possible?
It's all very possible, and in fact, people are doing various kinds of things like that. One of the, there actually is a JPL project called Flashlight that is going to exactly reflect sunlight down into the dark craters at the poles, and then use that to now go see what's in there. You can see what's in there with other kinds of things, but nobody can look with their eye because there's no light, and there hasn't been light for 1 billion years. And so nobody has seen it or knows for sure what's down there. Until you go touch it, you don't know. And so there's lots of ideas like that, and one of the key components of the CubeSat model is to create kind of a Lego model where you can plug and play with different kinds of components. And so the lunar cubes are going to be a little bigger because they need more moving parts or need more parts in general. But it's going to be built on the foundation of we tried it, we built it before, let's do what works, let's fix what didn't work, and let's try again. And so that's why university teams and high school teams are really great people who can build these things. You can see a lot of robotics challenges. Kids can do stuff that adults don't believe can be done. There's a really great little video from one of the lunar scientists. They said we went to some unnamed experts on how to build little robotic rovers and asked them, could we build this rover that would deploy, basically it was unrolling like an aluminum foil on the moon. They said, oh yeah, we could do that. It will cost you X billion dollars. And they said, well, we don't really have X billion dollars. So they gave it to a high school team. And in about 6 months, they had a robot that unrolled the aluminum foil and then turned around and rolled it back up again. And they didn't ask them to do that part.
Well, and it's funny that you say that because and part of limiting beliefs comes from the programming through our life. When we started, when we were born and we were younger, we wanted to be an astronaut or we wanted to be a movie star or a police officer. We had dreams and aspirations to go out there and do that, and or even be retired by the age of 30 or something. People have all these when they're younger, but as they grow up, they're constantly being pounded by someone programming these limited beliefs, from teachers to others, and reaching down. You're talking to adults that have these blockage. Now you get down into the high school and the elementary. I mean, I heard about it. I was at the movies not too long ago, and there was this whole thing about this kid who in science class discovered a way to kill cancer cells, kind of with a like a battery, a magnet where a positive and negative charge went through, and he tried like 150 labs, asked to use the labs to test it, and all of them but one turned him down. Didn't quite say no, but he bugged him for a long time. Finally went in, and this high school kid discovered a way to kill cancer in as far as through his testing strip, and put an electrical charge to it. And I thought, man, that is so powerful. But yet, see, our mind at a younger age, we're not blocked a lot of times from those limiting beliefs, so we think outside the box as a young kid. So let's talk about it. So now you got high schools that are high school kids and colleges and kids that are out there and other folks that are putting these together. I mean, obviously there's got to be a cost to get this up there. I mean, how's that coming about, or what you guys are doing to help manifest that?
So there's a couple of things. Yes, it's expensive. It's very expensive by our standards, but compared to what NASA is used to, it's extremely inexpensive. And it's gotten so inexpensive that groups of people can come up with the money. So you look at NASA's last satellite that went up there, the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, that cost $1 billion. $1 billion with a B. And NASA has a hard time building just about anything that costs less than $1 billion. So now a CubeSat If you went and built a nice gold-plated CubeSat with paid retail prices for it, it cost you about $1 million.
Okay.
To go to the moon, it'll probably cost you maybe $10 million. Well, that's a lot of money. On the other hand, there's one of the other space entrepreneurial companies recently started called Planetary Resources. They want to go to asteroids and mine the water and other resources off of asteroids. Well, before you can go mine an asteroid, first you got to find one. So we actually only know where about 10% of all the asteroids are. So their first job is to build a telescope to go find the asteroids that they want to then mine. And so, two lessons to learn from that. One of the lessons I got from a physics professor when I was back studying physics, and he said, if you find a problem that's too hard to solve, find a simpler problem that you can solve. So if the real problem you want to solve today is out of your reach, is there a simpler version of the similar problem that you can do? So maybe you can't make $1 million, but maybe you can make 100,000.
Yeah, breaking it down into a smaller component, it may be that one main one may be made up of 4 or 5 components that you have to figure out to get you to that one. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, and then compounding a lot of small successes to a big success is a lot easier and more fun than continuously staring at the wall saying, I can't get anything done.
Absolutely, and that's how we should manage our life. I mean, we should be breaking it down into smaller. I always tell people I manage my life in 90-day increments because it's easy to manage. I can break them down month to month, week to week, day to day, and plan my goals and my objectives around that. By breaking them down into smaller ones for my ultimate achievement goal that I want maybe in 90 days and what that is.
And another lesson we learned from Planetary Resources, and that $1 million isn't that much, is so they are building these little telescopes, and they said, well, we need to build 2 or 3 telescopes to do our science. We'll build an extra one and donate it entirely to schools if you give us the money to do it. So they created what's called a Kickstart program. And they said, we want to raise $1 million in 30 days. And they raised $1.5 million. And they crossed their initial goal in like 20 days.
Wow.
And so now they've raised $1.5 million. And now they can build an extra telescope and donate all that time to schools and other people. That they've got, you're talking about getting this radio broadcast from space. Well, they're doing a similar thing. One of the ways they raised all that money is they put a little TV screen on the nose of the telescope and a TV camera on the other end, so at some point they'll be able to take a picture of your picture on the telescope and the Earth in the background. And people pay like $500 for that.
Oh, that's kind of a cool feature, though.
Yeah, no, it's very cool. So you get your selfie from space. But the lesson that these guys did from that is very often, if you need to solve a big problem, start by helping somebody else. Right. They got $1.5 million because they said we'll give it to the schools.
Now, talking about money in space, you mentioned a couple things that are very intriguing. Is the fact that you're building these lunar cubes to not only go out to the moon, the fact that there's sponsorship capabilities where someone can actually get their logo on these cubes as they're reaching out to the moon, but also now the idea of taking these cubes and attaching them to asteroids. And you mentioned getting precious metals from these asteroids. So what you're saying is you can actually go out there and it's kind of like the new gold rush. You can land on an asteroid, say, hey, that's my asteroid and I want all the gold and palladium off of it?
Pretty close. People are, there are definitely asteroids out there. They definitely have a lot of metals and other kinds of things that are really valuable. One large asteroid would have like more copper than humans have used since we started using copper.
Wow.
So there's a lot more resources in space than there are on the ground, and you don't have to tear down a forest to get to them. So in the long run, there are things like titanium and copper that you could get out of an asteroid that would be very, very valuable for the survival of humanity into the future. In the short run, this is again one of those things that people thought was different or difficult and they just hadn't looked at it in the right way. We just saw 3 weeks ago a new presentation at the Planetary Conference in Houston that it turns out there are a lot of little bitty asteroids that come by the Earth every year. People thought there weren't very many asteroids around. If you had to find one, you had to go build these special telescopes and go far away. Turns out, if you want an asteroid about the size of this table, 3 feet big, 6 feet big, there's about 10 or 20 of those that come to the Earth orbit every year, and they hang around for 6 or 9 months. Well, that's close enough that you could build a CubeSat to go chase it down. So we're starting a project. We're going to take one of these high school-based CubeSats. We're going to go kickstart some money, get it rebuilt so that it can work in lunar space, get it flown 3 or 4 years from now, and begin testing the system that can now go chase down these asteroids. Because as I said, before you go mine one, you really need to touch a few.
Sure.
You need to know what they're made of, you need to know how they're made, because there's actually a lot of details that we don't yet know, even though we've been to a few, we've gotten up fairly close. We don't know nearly enough to create an industry out of it, and it turns out that lunar cubes could also be the first step to the asteroid mining industry too.
So you're telling me that you can get this landed, mine it, have it come back off, capture the cube, and bring it back, and know exactly what was going on that particular asteroid.
Basically, yeah, you get up close enough to either reach out and touch it. One of the questions is, are asteroids solid rocks, or are they kind of like concrete where there are pebbles and a bunch of dust? And then there's another idea called dust bunnies, where some of them may just be barely hold together at all. And what we know is, just by looking at them with telescopes far away, we can't tell the difference between those three. But before you send up $1 billion program to go mine it, you better know which ones are which.
Yeah.
And so there's some fundamental questions, and it turns out they're right in our backyard. These things that we thought were far, far away,
They're right
it's
here.
all right here.
Wow.
And the price is dropping every day. Elon Musk just almost got to where he can return his first stage of his rocket, which would cut the cost of rockets down another factor of 10 almost. And so suddenly, going from during the break, you asked about the cost of these CubeSats. Like I said, it took NASA $1 billion to get their big satellite into orbit, with a new company started by $1 million prize, $30 million prize from Google, thinks they can get my CubeSat into lunar orbit for $200,000 a pound.
Wow.
And that's unheard of.
Wow, that's
And
great.
there's 2 or 3 companies that are going to be trying to bring those kinds of prices to this kind of exploration.
That's awesome. That's a combination of everybody working together
Yeah.
to help reduce that cost.
Now, looking at space exploration, we see people like Richard Branson. He's got Virgin Galactic. Ross Perot's son is very big into space exploration. You mentioned FedEx is trying to create a way to ship a package out into space and land on the other side of the world in 60 minutes. So the ability to reduce the price on rockets, just like we see with our computers, or now our mobile phones, where you get them for free as long as you sign a contract. It's amazing how, as costs go down, the abilities that we have as humans and researchers expands. But furthermore, you talk about getting out there, creating rocket fuel off of the moon, and now selling it back to Richard Branson at some space station that's there, having another cube over here on an asteroid, and you've got some gold miner that's basically picking up his loot as soon as it gets done doing the mining on the asteroid. So there's actually possibilities for investors to become part of what you're doing.
Absolutely. There are 3 billionaire-backed startups. 2 of them are rocket companies trying to get you to the moon, Astrobotic and Moon Express. And then the other 2 asteroid companies are Planetary Resources and Deep Space Industries. That's Ross Perot's company. Actually, he's in Planetary Resources. And then there's Branson, and then there's others. And so there's big people out there looking at making big money, which again, until 2009, nobody was for sure was actually there. Now we know for a fact it's there. Now, once you've made that firm discovery, you can go whittle away at it. It's one small problem at a time, and eventually you're going to get there. So there are definitely places where a lot of money can be made. And then also the other thing is it looks like life may be far more common in the universe than we thought. Abraham?
Yeah, while many things are happening using the rockets and reaching the moon and doing all that, we also need the infrastructure in place, that all the information gathered there to remote control, all that need to get down to the earth. And remember, we have northern hemisphere, southern hemisphere, lot of water and land around it. So the communication area where I'm working on, we're seeing phenomenal opportunity in the backyard of your house. If you install a suitable antenna, you will be participating as your own space communication service provider. And this we see as another phenomenal growth on the ground. As long as you have some backyard space, you will be able to participate for financial gains too. So it's the opportunities what is the good word today? Like we don't see essentially any inhibitors. If you're out there, go for it and you get it.
Right. Limiting beliefs that
Limiting
fall
beliefs.
apart.
Yeah, limited beliefs.
So for those that are interested in being a part of what you guys are doing with Lunar Cubes and Lunar SIGs and some of the other entities, what's the next workshop that you're doing that someone could attend?
So our next workshop is called Lunar Cube. So it's going to be the CubeSat. It's going to be in Palo Alto, right next to Ames in Stanford. That's October, you said 7th?
7th through the 10th.
7th through the 10th. Also that week is the International Space Week. So there'll be people all over planet Earth having small little star parties and space parties, and we'll be interacting with them and letting them know that space is becoming democratic. Space is becoming available to almost anyone on planet Earth. If you're the kind of person who can dream, Abraham and I met a long time ago. He had a dream about building a little electric car with some very cool properties. We worked on that for a while, but when he was a kid, he raised goats in India.
Wow.
And the idea of becoming one of the leading electronics engineers in the country, working for Sun, that was one of the jokes I made. When Sun was doing all of their layoffs, he was one of the very last people to ever get laid off. They laid off a lot of people before they let go of Abraham. And who would have known that back when he was a kid raising goats?
Yeah, absolutely. Talk about breaking through the barriers of limited belief and not letting something hold you back.
Now, one of those limiting beliefs, I know there's a lot of people that are conspiracy theorists, there's people that are out there that they don't believe we ever made it to the moon. I mean, even Red Hot Chili Peppers, they talk about, the trip to the moon was made in a Hollywood basement, right?
This is coming from somebody that names themselves Red Hot Chili Peppers? Okay.
So the fact is we have gone to the moon, and we're actually going again here very soon.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the Google X Prize. There are 20 people trying to go back to the moon by next year. Basically, to win the $30 million prize, you have to land on the moon by the end of 2015. There'll probably be 2 or 3 out of that 20 who tried who are actually going to launch, and a couple of them are actually going to succeed. And they all plan to try again and make a business out of it. And so I call this the lunar renaissance. Most people, even among the NASA people, the NASA top scientists, you ask them what's going on the moon, they'll tell you almost nothing. They'll know 1 or 2 of the missions. But when we sat down and added it up, there are 10, 20 people trying to go, and it's very reasonable to believe within a few years there will be as many as 5 to 10 landers on the moon. The Chinese just landed. The Russians have 5 missions in plan. The Koreans have an orbit they want to go. And then there are all of these Google X Prize, Lunar Cubes kinds of missions. So there could be a lot of people in and around the moon as early as 3 or 5 years from now. And that's what we're building the workshops for. What do they do when they get there? Teaching the scientists about the engineering about the science. Because up until now, planetary scientists never thought they could go to space. So a scientist never bothered to learn engineering. The engineers never thought they could build a spacecraft because it's once a decade NASA goes to Mars or Jupiter, and they would never get in on that. That's all changing. And the purpose of the workshops is to make sure we have special interest groups, and we're going to put together our own $1 million prize challenges. The function of all of that is to get these people talking to each other and dreaming in ways that no one's ever had to dared to dream for 40 years.
Well, that's awesome. Well, you know what? We're going to need to close up the show. I mean, we could spend hours talking about this. I really like this show today. And, we're going to be putting up on the GettheUFactor.com the 7 steps of banishing a limited belief. And we'll also have the workbook and the video to come back and audio to come back and re-listen to this. Because, today I think we broke the outer space, that limited belief for sure. And we want to thank Abraham Vasant and Russell Cox for coming out and sharing with us about this. So why don't you go ahead and close it out, Nicholas, and we'll call it a beautiful day, and we'll see you next Tuesday. But why don't you go ahead and close it out?
Sure, and don't forget to go to lunarcubes.com if you want to be a part of the space exploration. And again, the show is about awakening the inner you. Throughout the course of our educational radio video broadcast, combined with our online educational material and workshops, you will discover what has been hiding inside of you all along. Our program is built specifically for you to help you get what you want out of life. You will be presented with key fundamentals that will guide you through anything in life to help you to respond in a different way, a new way, a way you factor to be the best possible way for you. Resolve to make a revolution in your resolution. Set goals you can and will achieve. Discover a champion's mindset. Master persistence and pursue your passions. Empower your life with honesty and integrity. Manifest your reality with daily thoughts of action. Perception and awareness around you will flow with positivity. Visualize your destiny and go out and get it. It is our goal to change your life and the lives of those around you by empowering you with the knowledge to get exactly what you desire. We know we can't change you or your habits or actions. All we can do is to provide you with everything you need to make that change. At the end of the day, it is up to you, and we are here to help. So for now, it's your decision to take decisive action and get the you factor. Thank you guys. We'll see you next show.
Bye-bye.
And we're out.
Good. All right.
Awesome. That was a good
Thank
show.
you. Thank
Woo!
you. Lots of fun. Appreciate it.
See you guys.
You could do like a 4-hour show.
Oh, yeah. Seriously.
Oh, yeah, it's cool. There's a lot of good stuff there. I mean,